All right, so we're doing well here and have already looked at some tools that allow us to perform data exploration and QA, conduct some basic table transformations, and manipulate tables with text and numerical tools. And in this lecture, I want to talk about arguably one of the most important tables in a data model, the date table. And we're going to check out some date specific tools within the query editor. So, looking at the Add Column menu in our query editor, you'll see those date and time tools grouped here on the right. And these are pretty straightforward. You've got a few different options here. And one of the more interesting ones right at the top of the list here is the age option. And that actually automatically calculates the difference between the current time based on today, or a now function, and the actual date in each row. You have the date only tool, which basically looks at any field that might contain both a date and a timestamp, and it strips out the time component and leaves you with just the date only. You also have your pretty basic set of date component functions like year, month, quarter, week, and day. And that just basically extracts individual components or individual attributes from the date field. And if you're selecting a field that has a timestamp as well, you'll also have similar time-specific options like hour, minute, and second. Two other ones that I want to call out here are earliest and latest. And you'll see that those two are at the bottom of the list, and they're actually both grayed out. And that's because we're in an Add Column menu, and both of these functions act just like statistics tools, and they return a single value. So to access those two options, you'll actually need to grab them from the transform option. And as you might have guessed, the earliest option is going to return the earliest date in the column. Latest is going to return the last date. So a quick note here, you'll almost always want to perform these date operations from the Add Column menu as opposed to the Transform menu, since most of the time the goal is to actually build out new fields using these date components as opposed to overriding or transforming an individual date or time column. So pro tip here, what you can actually do in Power BI quite easily is load up a table that contains a single set of dates, or you could create a date table from scratch, and then use these date tools to actually build out an entire robust calendar. So that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do in a second. But first, let me give you a little sneak peek of what it's going to look like. So we're going to start out with a single column containing dates, and then we're going to apply some of those predefined date options using the Add Column tools in the query editor. And then we're going to transform that individual column into an entire calendar containing additional fields like day of week, day of name, start of week, month, quarter, year, etc. All right, so let's open up Power BI and we'll give this a shot. All right, so if you're continuing along, we had left off in the query editor here, and we're going to go and open up our sixth CSV, and we're going to connect to our AdventureWorks calendar table. All right, and the preview looks very straightforward. We have just a single column containing dates. So let's click OK and we'll add this into the query editor. And again, let's keep our process consistent. So the first two steps that we're going to take, we're going to update our table name to calendar lookup. And then we're going to confirm that our column headers are updated and that the data type is set. So we can see that we have date here and that our data type is set as a date also. All right, so check and check. Everything looks great. Now, let's explore some of these different date tools. And I actually want to start with the earliest and latest options. So I'm going to head up to the Transform menu, and then I'm going to come over to my date tools here. And when I click earliest, it behaves just like those stats functions, right? We transform the entire table into a single aggregated value. And we can see here that our calendar or our earliest date starts on January 1st, 2020. If I clear this out, head back to my Transform tab, and then we'll click latest. This is going to give us the latest date in the calendar, right? So this is June 30th, 2022. All right, so we've got about 2.5 years worth of data within our calendar table. So let's close these steps out. We'll get back to where we started. Now let's shift gears into actually adding columns, right? Because that's what the real value is here. And this time I want to create some new fields based on this date column. So if I come up here to add column, and let's say we want to add in the day name first, right? And again, you can see that these values are grayed out here because we're adding columns. So if I click on name of day, we get a brand new column that's added. We have an applied step here, insert a day of name, and we see our column here, right? Day name for the column header name, and then the data type is a text. And we could update this if we wanted to, but day name is actually pretty good. So we're going to leave this as is. Another interesting piece here that I want to show you is that the query editor actually has some very interesting week-related calculations, right? So if we head up here to week, we can see week of year, week of month, start of week, end of week. And I want to insert a start of week calculation. And as we can see here, as we look down when the start of the week is actually occurring, we can see that it happens on a Sunday, right? January 5th is the start of the week on this Sunday. We skip down here. We see the 12th, it's a Sunday, so on 19th, the Sunday, so on and so forth, right? But maybe that's fine, but maybe you want to update it. And to update it or customize the start of the week, it's actually not super intuitive. And there are a couple of different ways that we could actually accomplish this, right? The first way is we could come up here to the formula bar and we could type in and edit the M code here. Or we can click this gear icon and edit the applied step directly from a window that pops up. All right, so now that we're in this custom column window here, right, this just makes it a little bit more manageable to understand what exactly we're dealing with instead of trying to edit the M code directly within the formula bar. And this date function, date.start of week, has an optional second parameter, right? The first parameter is the date column that you want to use. The second is the start or the first day of the week, right? You can see it brought up here through the IntelliSense option. And I know that if I type in 1, that returns Monday as the start of the week. So we'll click OK. And you can see that our start of week column has shifted, right? So 1/6, it's a Monday. 1/13, it's a Monday. 1/20, it's a Monday. Again, so on and so forth. You can also see up here in the formula bar that the 1 has been added to this code. Say we wanted to change this to starting on a Tuesday, we could update that to 2, and then we see the column shift again. 1/7 on a Tuesday, 1/14 on Tuesday, 1/21 on Tuesday, right? So it's super easy to kind of update the start of the week. It's just not really intuitive at first. So let's actually jump back in to this applied step here. And while this is really straightforward, it's tough for people to kind of read this, right? 2 or 1 isn't a very intuitive or readable format. So our other option here is to come in and update this 2 to something a little bit more readable, like day.monday, right? And that is going to show somebody when they're looking at this code that, hey, the day of the week is starting on a Monday. We'll click OK. And again, we see that update back to Monday is the start date on the 6th, Monday on the 13th. So this is great. I want my week to start on a Monday, so I'm going to leave this alone. All right, so let's keep things rolling along here, and I want to add in some additional date columns, like let's add in start of month. So if I come back up to my date tools, click on month, and then click on start of month, you can see here I've got this start of month column. And on close inspection here, something seems off. And what we need to be really careful of is the column that we've selected to base our calculated columns off of, right? So see how we were on the start of week column? When we look at the start of month, we're seeing the start of month is in December 1st, December 1st, December 1st, December 1st, December 1st, but our dates are actually in January, right? It takes us until the 6th of January to actually catch up and say, hey, the start of our month is actually in January. So what we need to do is make sure we have the date column selected, and then we can come over, go to month, start of month, and here you can see the difference between the two, right? Now we're correctly assigning the appropriate start of month based on the date column instead of based on the start of the week. So again, this is something to really just keep an eye on as you're working through adding columns. If you have any sort of issues or errors within these calculated columns, make sure that you're basing everything off of the date column. So again, we cleared those applied steps out. I'm going to go back to my start of month. And now we've got this appropriately set up, right? All these start of months in January. We get into February, and it's starting appropriately there as well. All right, so everything looks good now. Let's add in one more column here for our start of quarter. And again, we had that date column selected, so our start of quarter values are good to go there as well. All right, so this is a great start so far, and I think you're getting the idea of how quickly a calendar table can be built from a single column of dates. And what this calendar table will actually allow you to do is to filter and segment the values in a data set by any of these fields that we've created. And this is going to be really helpful when we start using more of the analysis and visualization tools within Power BI. All right, so for now, I think our calendar is good to go. Head back home. We'll click Close and Apply to save these changes. There we go. We've got our calendar lookup table that we just imported today. All right, so there you have it. Those are our query editing date tools.